All right, let's see how well trained you are. You know, how well trained corporate America has gotten you. Do you recognize this famous business logo? I'm loving it. How about this one? Does this look familiar? Come on, let's do it. Oh, how about that one? Maybe this one? Now look at these. These are all simple logo graphics. Not much going on, but they're all instantly recognizable, right? Like instantly recognizable. You know what the products they make and sell are, you know what they're about. And that's because they've had successful marketing campaigns and advertisements. And, you know, if all these companies, you know, some have been around longer than others. Like, you know, Shell Oil has been around for over 100 years, right? McDonald's has been around for, you know, since the 1950s, and NBC's been around for, again, almost 100 years. So those are all pretty well-known brands. I'm introducing you to the next greatest brand logo ever, and that's Coco. Da 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 do 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 do. Da 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 do do. All right. Da 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 do do do. Hey now. Da 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 do do. Mr. Kovacs Class. It's Mr. Kovacs Class.
You might learn a ton.
It's Mr. Kovacs Class.
He's interesting too.
It's Mr. Kovacs Class.
And he's super cool.
It's Mr. Kovacs Class.
Vroom, vroom, vroom. Play with Coco brand toy trucks. They're the best, brah. Woo!
So by now you know that Coco is my company for producing toy trucks. And we have this kind of business model based on the eukaryotic cell. Well, today I'm going to take you on the first step of our factory tour. And then those of you who are in class today, your part 2 is going to be to look at your own hair samples. I'll show you how to do that in class. And if you're not in class, you don't have part 2 today. And in part 3, guess what? More about cells. Okay, so here, let's go on a little factory tour today. All right, let's go on a tour of the factory, shall we? The Coco factory. All right, it's a pretty simple building. Right, it's got an outer wall. There's a lot of open space on the inside. There is a main office. You notice I put in the main office a double wall for extra protection. There's some corridors, and there's a bathroom, of course, a little break area, coffee and donuts. And then there's a warehouse or storeroom. But you can see how we're designed. We've got some doors for staff to come in. We've got doors for the pieces of trucks to come in, right? And then they come in to get assembled by my assembly line workers. They get pushed right on a little conveyor belt. Then the packaging manager packages them into boxes. The warehouse manager picks up those boxes and stores them until he's contacted by the shipping director, and she tells him it's time to ship some out. Now, of course, you don't ship all trucks out at once, and you don't ship them one at a time. So, you know, that's all got to be coordinated. Right? I've got a security guard here who's responsible really for the outside of the building, making sure that only the right people are going in and out. And then in the main office, right there's where the boss is. I have a couple of assistants, including my secretary and my human resources officer, which is really, this is the person in charge of the actual workers doing their work, right? I make big decisions. I have the plans, but my human resources officer hires the workers and makes sure they get paid and keeps track of their hours and stuff like that. All right, so here's some of my employees. You see, I've got a lot of good quality employees. You might know some of them. You might know Robbie Zohm, or Olga Body. You might, Vacuole, Sal Embrain. I mean, anyway. All right, so in the factory, in the main office, there are 3 of us working. There is the boss, that's me, Chromatin, the CEO, the boss man, the big kahuna, the big cheese. And I have a secretary, her name is Myrna, M-R-N-A. She's my communication conduit And then I also have human resources, the nucleolus. Notice that's a different word than nucleus. Nucleolus. Nucleolus. Different word. This person is in charge of the workforce, right? So I'm the boss. I've got the plans. I know what needs to be done, when it needs to be done. My secretary is my administrative assistant. This person, he or she makes communications for me, basically tells other people what I need to have them do. And then the nucleolus, their job is to make sure that I always have workers that are willing and ready to work. Right? This all happens in the main office, the nucleus. The nucleus. The nucleus. Right? And then out on the factory floor, I have the folks that actually touch the part, like put the trucks together. I have the receiving clerk, Trina. This person gets the parts together and delivers them to the assembly line. Then I have a whole slew of assembly line workers that put the pieces together. And then at the end of the assembly line, I have a packaging, right, to put the pieces into boxes. Right, this all happens on the factory floor in the cytoplasm. Right, here's a picture with an electron microscope of a factory. This is the nucleus. Okay. In reality, the boss and the secretary just float around in the nucleus. This kind of thick spot in the middle, this is the nucleolus, the human resources officer. And this is where ribosomes, new workers, are constantly being made. Let's see, out here on the factory floor, well, you might notice this big thing, that's a mitochondrion, but if you look around it, you can see all these little teeny tiny dots. Those are ribosomes, those are workers. And if you notice, they are lined up on this like conveyor belt. That's called the endoplasmic reticulum. And it's made out of cell membrane stuff. Right? At the end of the endoplasmic reticulum, it folds up. That's called the Golgi. And what happens is the Golgi, like proteins are made, it comes to the endoplasmic reticulum, and then as it folds up, they wind up getting put in the very ends of these little folds, and that puts them into these little bubbles called vesicles. Sometimes the vesicles are shipped to a large vesicle, a large storage area called the vacuole. Right? And the vacuole is also out on the factory floor. And this part doesn't do any, it handles the product after it's been packaged. It's really just a storage manager. And they have two other folks on the factory floor. I've got my maintenance workers, the lysosomes, and then I need power. Now, in my cocoa factory, that power is produced by NICEG, and I buy it from them. But in a cell, you make your own power with mitochondria. All right? Lysosomes, vacuoles, and mitochondria. And then finally, there are some folks that work on the outside of the factory. Those are the cell membranes. Okay? Cell membrane. You've got security, shipping, and advertising. Security is the plasma membrane, the phospholipids that allow some things in and keep some things out. Shipping are big proteins that spit out the product. And then, of course, I have other proteins on the outside of the cell whose job is just to advertise, to tell other cells what it is we make and what we do. All right, so the outside of the factory is the cell membrane. And it's kind of a complicated area, and we're going to talk about that more. So that's a quick factory tour here. So now, if you're a bee, hybrid bee, you're going to, part 2, you're going to make hair cell specimens. I put a link to the video that shows you how to do that in part 2 today. If you are a hybrid or full remote, you have no part 2 today. All right? Sounds good to me, don't you think? All right, Cocoa employees, let's get to work.